Yield curve Uni inversion.
This is the crazy part. So the yield curve is an indicator for recession, but they told it wasn't a recession. But as soon as it uninverts, it's news. I don't even know what to do. Because if I run out of gas and I have no gas in my car and I tell you, we're fine, we're still traveling, but I'm just going off the momentum I built up on 285. Like, there's a lot of media engineering behind this. Great news. Will go even better if he cuts a quarter of a basis point. But we were inverted for 18 months, 20 months. No recession. Like, can we just lie in media now? I know a lot of people have been doing it in their YouTube reviews, but just flat out lying, like, no, this is not happening. But when the signal uninverts, now it's like, oh, we're in the clear. In the clear what? I thought we were not in a recession. What happened? Like, I missed the hard journalistic reporting and just being honest across the board. I really do.
So does it mean that there's going to be a healthier cycle or an uptrend? I mean, if you waited to report, you changed the rules a little bit, it finally has got to a point that's favorable for you to report. Should we now, or I shouldn't say we, should the general public look at this as an indicator, say, okay, I believe it now?
Yeah, the worst is over. We should have more to the upside. A couple of those companies getting kicked out of the S&P was indicative as well. I think it's a few. Some needs to get kicked out the Dow as well, but
that's true.
Brighter days are coming. Definitely, I think going into next year, if we can get through 25 and 27, we'll be okay. But if you look, with the exception of the gains from COVID, we've been flat since 19. A lot of innovation. Just take the drop of COVID and recovery, right? Which played a big part in our lives. But take that out, most companies have not done incredibly well. And the crazy part, Elon on his way to being a trillionaire, and Tesla's not moving that much. Talking about building an indestructible business. He's part Dutch too, right? Import, export.
Good, you know. We had American Airlines got replaced. I know you were just alluding to that. Companies that got excluded out of the S&P 500. Etsy which was one of those pandemic darlings. Yep. And Erie is going to replace BioRoad Laboratories. September 23rd, that takes effect.
Etsy should have never been in the S&P. We're going to be honest.
Like, that was a quick run right into the S&P, right?
Yeah, that's tough. Grand opening, grand closing.
Well,
but I think things will get better.
What about SMCI? Got downgraded by JP Morgan.
Supermicro.
Y'all remember? Well, of course, y'all from New York. Remember the era when like everybody was trying to rap like Hov, and then Hov put that black ball on them like somebody else he did. SMCI was a great benefiter of NVIDIA and the rise of ASML. I don't think they've ever should have had this run up. To be honest, they got to 1229.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so what? Like a year prior, they were at 182. And no one on earth can tell me why they deserve to go from 182 to 1200 other than the space was hot. It reminded me a lot of like the NFT and parts of crypto. Do I think it's a great company? Yes, but to go up 11x. So downgrade has been overdue. If they go to 261, I may want to swing trade it, but
so
no.
I'm a fan of SMCI, and it has to do everything with NVIDIA. And when we broke down the economy that's being put around NVIDIA, when we talked about data centers and what you should be looking inside of data centers, we talked about cybersecurity, and we also talked about servers.
Yep,
they are one of the companies that help produce high efficiency, high speed servers for cloud computing, for artificial intelligence, and for storage. And so if you keep seeing these companies and you hear data centers, that's an integral part of it, right? Like you have to have those in order for them, number one, to house them, but to also store the information. The pullback is interesting. Obviously, we've seen NVIDIA drop 30% and go down to, I think it was at 105 today, but The problem with SMCI is the numbers and
Ugly.
the potential fabrication of numbers,
Yeah.
which has hurt the stock. And
Media training. That's a great phrase. Potential fabrication. Well played.
Right.
Pun intended.
yeah, because it's tough to have a fair valuation. It's tough to have a fair guidance going forward if the numbers are potentially fabricated. That's what's hurting it more so than its functionality, because it is going to be needed. It is going to be a company that obviously NVIDIA has partnered with, and so its growth inside of the data center units, you'll see it inside there. But we got to get these numbers together and expeditiously, because if you have a pullback, that could happen, right? If let's say rates don't get cut, and let's say witching and September does what it does, October does what it does, we're talking about a drastic fall.
Bloodbath. And anytime a company gets to doing financial engineering, like even for them in the space, their gross margin is 18%. Their profit margin is 8.9%. When NVIDIA is bringing in 40%, they had a 25% drop. So if you have a profit margin of 8%, you should be down 70%. We just gonna flat out lie. We'll flex it. Y'all lied. Y'all worship this company. They're not NVIDIA. NVIDIA dropped 25% from its peak with a profit margin of 42%. Their profit margin is 8.9. The math ain't mathing. But what do I know? Shout out to SMCI. Slow and steady wins the rate. Go back to the old lesson. You say, Rashad, hey, 30, 40%, still 30, 40%. If I told you I have a company, so let's say I went to the pitch competition, and if you invest in me, you get an 8% profit margin per year, but I'm going to make you pay a multiple of 11 of, you say, get the fuck out the room. You want me to pay a multiple of 11 for 8% profit margin? Fly kite. What? Dog. So,
are you not touching the stock at all?
On swing trade, long term, I would never touch it.
Okay.
Anytime you get to engineering them numbers,
it's tricky.
Shotty, you stole my crystal ball last week, that DOJ probe, and I know Jensen said it wasn't true.
That's right. Like we said, sometimes you get too hot, and then the alphabet boys come looking. Allegedly. And
it's even worse, Shotty, if you're like, yo, was CIA at your door yesterday? No, they weren't. Even having to ask the question bad. If he'll offer it up, now if Jensen would have offered it, I would have been like, all right, cool. The denial of the probe? Come on, bro.
They have denied. They have denied that there wasn't any probe at all.
What are 3 rules for trading options?
I got to swing this to Troy. Pause. Is that a pause moment? Going into the I love the show. Swear to God. Going into the fourth quarter, what are 3 options rules you think people need to obey, given how tricky the trading environment can be? And I'll go over it on the future side too. But depending on if he cuts rates, if real numbers start to come out about some of these companies, what are 3 rules you think they should follow?
I always tell people, if they're going to have options contracts, they should understand the equity itself, right? So if I'm going to have an option on NVIDIA, then I better own some NVIDIA, because the volatile moves that'll happen in options, they can wipe you out. And so I've shown my portfolio inside the university where if it's Microsoft, you're going to see a call on Microsoft. If it's Apple, there's a call on Apple. If it's TSM, you're going to see calls on TSM as well, just because I own the equity and I have the options contract. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you have to figure out your threshold for patience. And that's something that I've had to learn a few times, but it's a valuable lesson that's learned, right? And it's the reason why we like to do leaps, and we don't do day trades, and we don't do swing trades. And I know they got, what's the new one, like you can sell them with contracts within an hour. That's number one. I just don't have the time, obviously, with everything that we have going on. But when I put leaps in inside of my contract theory, it makes more sense for me, right? I can justifiably see a 5% move to the upside. I can see a 10% move to the upside based on future guidance. So that would be number 2, having a patience threshold, and then understanding your strikes, man. The strike price is important, and understand how the bid and the ask are formulated. I never want to buy something at its ask price. I tell people it would be like walking into the dealership and somebody telling you the top dollar for the car, and you say, "All right, I'll take it." I'm always looking at the price that I feel like is necessary or it fits into my investment strategy, right? I always want to have it at least 5 to 10% below that. And so I'm going to put my limits there. And if it goes over, I won't get it. But if it comes to the point where I can buy it at that limit, then great. But being patient enough to know that if it doesn't hit today, then I'll try again tomorrow at that same price. A lot of times we'll see companies run up and we're saying, oh my gosh, I got to get it now before that. As you can see, if you have the patience, the numbers will come back. I know, like, even when you said 107 for NVIDIA, I remember I said 112 and it was sitting at 135 and people are thinking to themselves, there's no way this is going to happen. And then Lord,
every time you say that,
and it happens. And so having a strike that makes sense, understanding the ask and bid is important, but having that strategy and being disciplined enough to execute the strategy, I think those are the keys, especially going into the fourth quarter, especially now that we know September is volatile, and then we see the end of the year. We're going to potentially see some increases. You got to have that.
And going back to SMCI really quick, not to pick on them. Shout out to everyone there, corporate and their headquarters. But I think a great tip is to look at what the average 1 year target is expected to be. If you look at a lot of analysts, which I only care about my price and I don't care about anybody else's, but it helps illustrate a great point. For some analysts, they have SMCI going to $38. You can go on Walmart right now and look at it. $38 to $70 is the range that they're projected to be at. Now, could it be off? Cool. But anytime an analyst from any major 10 firm is predicting an 80 or 90% drop, that's not good. Or if you're doing calls. Now, if you're doing puts, run it up. Run it up. But I think you should know what those 1 year price targets are looking like to give you a clue about what the general consensus is on the street about that stock.
Yes, sir.
And they have a stock split coming up.
They're going to have to do a 70-1 split to make this.
They got to
rework them numbers, my boy.
I think it's on the 1st of October. Let me just double check.
Yeah.
That'll be Halloween havoc if y'all don't get this right.
10 to 1. 10 to 1.